and welcome to Ag PhD. I'm Brian Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for joining us. You know, Brian, there are a lot of guys in our area that are switching away from wheat and they're moving into corn and soybeans. They say, I got to do it. I just can't get better yields on my wheat. And we start looking at the programs and wow, I can see why. There's a lot of things we can do with wheat now that we couldn't do just a few years ago. We'll explain some of those things and talk about how they could help you improve your wheat yields.
Well, this won't really help you improve your yields at all, but it will certainly help you improve your bottom line. That is prepaying. We're going to discuss some of the risks with prepaying and also the benefits, especially and including taxes.
Well, taxes aren't nearly as scary, Brian, as our weed of the week. We'll show you what controls this tough weed when we get to it later in the show. But first, here's this week's Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
You know what, Brian? It is amazing. Where we're standing right on this path is rock hard. And when we move over one step where wheels don't drive, and all of a sudden it's a little bit softer. And you think about that, that's controlled traffic for you. We're driving over these same exact tracks all the time. We don't drive a couple feet over here and a couple feet over there because it's packed down right here. And we're seeing the same types of things out in our fields. If we can control our traffic and just drive in the same spot, we have a whole bunch of our field then, 95% of our field or better, that's going to be real tilthy and fluffy and soft. That's a good thing.
Yep, so there are a number of farmers around the country who are really focused on this soil management thing and trying to reduce compaction. And what those farmers have gone to is controlled traffic in their field. And so they match up the planter size to the sprayer size with the combines, everything. Every piece of equipment that's running across that field, it's going to be running in the same tracks. And I was talking to one of these farmers who has had this controlled traffic pattern. He said, the only time I'm willing to fire my guys is if they drive kitty corner across my field and destroy my controlled traffic pattern. Because he said most of the compaction that occurs in a field is going to happen on that first trip across. So why do I want to make a whole bunch of first trips across the field? I want to keep everything running in the same path all the time.
Now, it's a little bit different in row crop than it is in crops that are broadcast across the field. Like, let's take a look at wheat. Now, you may be planting it in rows, but the rows are really, really narrow. So for farmers in wheat, a lot of them just say, well, I'm just going to drive out there and I'll try to kind of stay around the same path. But other farmers are really taking it serious and saying, you know what, I'm actually going to have set spots out there so I'm always driving in the same area.
Yep, so in other words, it doesn't matter what crop a farmer is raising, whether it's corn and soybeans, whether it's wheat or sugar beets or potatoes or anything else. The farmer, if he wants to, can manage the traffic in his field, have this controlled traffic like we talk about, and overall he's going to have less compaction in the entire field.
You know, it's not exactly rocket science, Brian, that you drive in one spot and wow, it's earth-shattering that it's not quite as compacted over there. But it is something that if farmers pay attention to it and do it that particular way, they're certainly seeing some yield gains.
And we're just talking about it here during Farm Basics. So when you're driving down the road as a non-farmer, you can kind of see the farmers who are trying to stay in the same paths all the time versus the ones who are driving kitty corner across the field. And there is just a little bit different style of management there.
Well, the other place I see it, Brian, is when I'm flying. If I'm up in a plane and I'm looking down at fields and you see all kinds of patterns all throughout the field, just really no reason for it, I always look at that and say, man, what if that guy just did controlled traffic? Because you can certainly see those fields. Now, there's a lot less of those fields where guys really control their traffic. But when you see those fields, they really stand out.
Yeah, and part of the reason why is it's not easy to do this. You have to have everybody on your farm, everybody who's working in your operation focused on what's going on. And then again, you have to match up your equipment so you can actually run on the same tracks all the time.
And wouldn't it be nice, Brian, if you could just continuously run over our weed of the week so it couldn't get ahead of our crops? Can you identify this week's weed?
With Roundup Ready Plus weed management solutions, the pluses really add up. You can count on expert advice, herbicide recommendations, plus weed control incentives for your higher-yielding seeds and advanced traits. With Roundup Ready Plus and Genuity Roundup Ready to Yield soybeans, you have the solutions you need to effectively subtract your weed problems. And that adds up to yield. For more details, visit RoundupReadyPlus.com.
Hey Brian, it's Farm Guy.
What brings you to our farm?
I watch Ag PhD every week and know that you guys do a lot of field testing.
We test a lot of products here, and when something works, we use it on our farm.
Oh, like agriculture liquid fertilizers. You guys started talking about ProGerminator and SureK on the show a few years ago.
But I was skeptical.
You're always skeptical.
Should Brian be skeptical of agro-liquid fertilizers? Find out at www.farmguytv.com.
Harvest season will soon be over, but don't put away your equipment until you bring it into Titan Machinery, your Case IH dealer. Take advantage of our Uptime Maintenance program. Uptime is Titan's preventative maintenance service designed to eliminate costly downtime during the short working season. Our technicians average more than 10 years of experience and use a comprehensive checklist to find problems before they slow you down. Call Titan Machinery today to schedule your Uptime service so you can spend the winter worry-free. Titan Machinery and Case IH. Better solutions.
Everything is better to the power of Nutrisphere N. Proven to shield against leaching, volatilization, and denitrification, Nutrisphere N Nitrogen Fertilizer Manager helps you maximize the efficiency of your nitrogen applications. In fact, research shows that in 184 corn trials, Nutrisphere N increases yields by an average of 13.2 bushels per acre. Do the math for yourself. Contact your local fertilizer dealer today and take your operation to the power of Nutrisphere N.
Speed, strength, and efficiency make Capello corn heads a head above the rest. Built with polymer components that exceed industry standards, Capello corn heads continue to push the boundaries for maximizing grain retention while using less energy. Visit CapelloUSA.com and learn more about Capello's state-of-the-art chopping technology that cuts cleaner, allowing your horsepower to remain where it belongs, with your combine, so you can harvest faster in all weather conditions. Add to that an amazing folding feature, and it's clear to see why Capello is a head above the rest.
How are we going to get higher yielding wheat on the farm, Darren? You talked earlier about how farmers are going away from wheat. I can understand why, because corn and soybeans are worth a lot of money. But if a farmer wanted to continue raising wheat, what steps should he be taking to boost his yields and profitability to the next level?
Well, there's certainly a lot of crop consultants and different firms that have made their living entirely on helping farmers get better yielding wheat. And they've done so with great success. But there are just a lot of really small, simple steps that farmers can take to improve their wheat yields. There isn't just one thing that you say, you're just planting the wrong variety. Boom, I put the different variety out and I get 50 more bushels. No, that's not how it works.
Yep.
But it starts with careful planning all the way from which variety of seed you're going to buy and what planting population to everything you do to that seed once you put it in the ground.
So one of the things that not a lot of farmers are doing yet around the country is using controlled traffic patterns like we talked about a little earlier in the show. And the way that you can do this in wheat is having tram lines. Basically, you're redirecting seed that would go right in your tire track over to the sides. So now you have a nice path that you can always follow to do your spraying. Because in an intensively managed wheat program, you're probably going to be back out there 5 to 8 times during the season. And you might say, whoa, I can't spend that much money. Look, I don't care what I spend on the farm. What I care about is how much return I can get for every investment. I would never, ever tell you to go out and spray without that spray paying for itself most all of the time. So you have to look at each individual trip and say, is this worth it? Is that worth it? And we'll talk about some of those things that you might consider spraying for.
All right, well, let's just start out with the seed, Brandon. When that goes in the ground, it's important to protect it. Now, back 10 years ago, a lot of guys weren't using seed treatments, but over the last few years now, they've grown in popularity tremendously because we've seen some differences in the field.
Yeah, but you know, a lot of farmers are still just using fungicide, and that's not enough anymore.
Well, a lot of wheat is grown in dry areas, and guys say, well, wait a minute here. I'm probably not going to have as much disease problem out there because my ground is dry. Well, that's the wrong answer. You're going to still have disease pressure. It may be different diseases that hit you versus a wet year, but you're still going to have diseases. So you need to use a good fungicide on that seed treatment. The other thing that you need is an insecticide on the seed treatment. And what we're running into more and more in wheat acres is wireworms. And the pressure has gotten so heavy that a standard low rate or base rate of an insecticide just isn't enough.
Well, it's not just wireworms, Darren. It's also other bugs. There are some flies that you can control early in the season.
Aphids.
Yep, aphids, grasshoppers, just a number of different things because there are systemic insecticides now. So literally that insecticide gets absorbed by that plant, by the roots, and it will move up through the plant to help protect the plant for several weeks. In addition to insecticide though, Darren, besides the base fungicide, I like to talk to guys about biological products. It's kind of the new wave in agriculture. Every big company you may have noticed is buying these little biological companies because all the big guys have figured out, if we're going to take that next step in yield, we need to not just look at herbicide, insecticide, fungicide, we need to go to biological products as well.
Well, one of them that we've used for a number of years has been Quick Roots, and that's definitely proven itself in a number of ways. First of all, we're seeing a difference in the root growth. We're seeing more root hairs, and we're seeing those root hairs explore a larger volume of soil. So when we're doing plant tissue analysis where we've used Quick Roots versus just a few feet over where we didn't use Quick Roots, we're seeing more nutrients get into that plant early, and we're seeing better early growth and better yields in the end.
Well, Darren, I loved how the train was tooting its horn there.
Well, it was cheering for me, Brandon, saying, "Go, Darren! Go, Darren!"
Well,
you bet.
Just like that. Yeah, so I don't know if it's going to continue tooting its horn when I bring up this next point, and that is you want to use a good pre-emerge herbicide. So we're talking about things like Prepare and Sharpen, and this is in crop rotation. So Darren and I were just talking off camera a little bit about Olympus and Maverick and Powerflex, and I said, whoa. If you're talking continuous wheat, I'm fine with things like Olympus and Maverick, but there's no way I'm using them in rotation.
There's a lot of guys using Olympus as a pre-emergent continuous wheat.
Yes, in continuous wheat, that's fine. But a lot of farmers now are trying to rotate something else in, get a broadleaf in with the grass crop. That's a good way to go. So rotating wheat with soybeans or wheat with lentils or something like that.
Well, the other thing we're doing a lot of right at that same time is fertility. And when we look at fertility programs in wheat, a lot of guys say, well, I'm using this blend of NP and K, and that's what I'm doing. And they're forgetting about micronutrients. And we're seeing some excellent gains adding micronutrients to the program, things like Micro 500 or TJ Micromix. There are a number of different micronutrient blends that you can add. We really prefer the blends rather than trying to add just copper or just one specific micronutrient. A lot of times we get things way out of balance out in our fields really quickly.
The other thing though, besides micronutrients, is looking at sulfur, because wheat does need a lot of sulfur, and we're just not getting sulfur through air pollution like we used to. So you probably,
I feel real bad about that, Brian.
Well, we have to spend money now. So the point is, anytime we're raising wheat on our farm, we're absolutely putting sulfur on there. So sulfur, micronutrients, NPK, you can't forget about those things.
One of the things that's changing in a lot of the post-emerge herbicide programs is really the removal of 2,4-D from the program. And you see that with some of the new herbicides that have come out with Wide Match, with Husky. Yeah, you could add 2,4-D back in with something like Wide Match, but why would you do that? You've got things like Addition Broad Spec. You've got other tank mix partners out there as well that just do an excellent job controlling a broad spectrum of weeds, where 2,4-D, you don't really need it, and you'll start to notice a little difference in your wheat because 2,4-D can be a little hard on wheat.
Well, the other thing is, let's not forget that 2,4-D has come way up in price in the last few years. It's kind of funny because I'll talk to my dad every once in a while about stuff, and he'll say, oh, let's just use some cheap 2,4-D. And I go, Dad, Banville's actually probably cheaper now than 2,4-D. What? I can't believe that. It used to be 8 times the price. Well, I know, but things have completely flipped. 2,4-D is expensive now. You can do some of these things like Darren mentioned with Addition. Throw that in with Wide Match or Husky instead of the 2,4-D for the same money or less, and get better control without the crop damage.
Well, the other thing is just timing on all of this. Like with grass control and wheat, it's critical to do a good job on things like wild oats and some of the problem grasses that we have in wheat. But you got to get out there early. If you let that stuff get a little bit big, it really can hamper your yield. Yeah, you can still kill it in a lot of cases, and at the end of the year you say, well, man, I don't have any weeds left out there, but my yield was disappointing. You already lost that yield early in the season. That's the real challenge with wheat.
All right, I know we're going through a whole bunch of different things, and we'll get into more details of this as the season progresses here, but we just wanted to get you thinking about a lot of things you can do to increase your wheat and yield. The last 2 things I've got is using insecticide. Anytime you see harmful bugs out in your field, you got to scout though. And then finally, using fungicide. On our farm, we're spraying fungicide 3 times. We spray at herbicide timing, at flag leaf, and then again at heading. If you're doing those trips and you're coming back also sometimes adding some fertilizer, throwing some herbicide out there. Again, like I said earlier, you're talking 5 to 8 trips across the field in season. So that's why you absolutely want those tram lines.
Well, there's certainly a lot of things you can do in wheat to influence yield. And while we're saying, a whole bunch of different ideas here, don't think, oh man, I have to do every single one of those things on my farm, even if I'm in a different part of the country. You may not. Maybe your program already has a number of those elements and you just need to look at this or that. We're just trying to get your mind working just a little bit to think, wow, there are some possibilities out there. There are some things that could help me, because there are a lot of things you can do now that can help improve your wheat.
Well, one of the most important things to improving your wheat is controlling our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?
Back in 1966, Advanced Drainage Systems, Inc. was the first company to start manufacturing plastic agricultural drainage pipe in the United States. And today, ADS continues our leadership with superior pipe production and service capabilities. Our roots are firmly entrenched in the agriculture industry, and we're committed to helping farmers grow their business. With 54 manufacturing plants and 24 distribution yards throughout the world, you can count on ADS and our green striped pipe to be there when you need us. Advanced Drainage Systems, the green striped pipe you can count on.
Looking to maximize yield? Quick Roots is a microbial seed inoculant that allows the plant root to explore a greater volume of soil, the key to higher yields. Quick Roots continues to generate yield response on corn, soybeans, wheat, and more. Quick Roots is applied to the seed so the live microorganisms go right to work, enhancing seedling vigor, increasing the uptake of certain nutrients including NPK, and expanding root volume. Maximize yield on your farm this season. Call TJ Technologies or your local dealer and get your Quick Roots today.
For years, FarmLogic has been the easiest and most convenient way to keep up with your farming operations. Well, it just got better. Introducing FarmPad for your phone. You always have your phone with you, so entering records as they happen is as easy as a touch of a button. Chemical database, GPS, service records, and more. When you do it on the farm, save it on your phone and it's backed up forever. Call or visit farmlogic.com for a free trial and find out why FarmLogic is the best decision tool for the farm.
You can't fill a barrel any fuller than its lowest stave, and your crops can't do any better than the nutrient that's in shortest supply. Your yield potential is only as good as the weakest nutrient in your fertilizer program. Give your crops more than just NPK. Prescription apply all the micronutrients your crop needs, each one customized for your crop's potential. MicroLink, linking yield to potential.
For lower costs and higher production, Mandaco leads with versatility unmatched. Twister is the vertical tillage unit for no-till as well as conventional tillage. Twister's ease of maintenance is forgiving in rocks and has contour conformity equaling zero downtime. Our hydraulically adjusted coulter angles make residue management easier and less costly. Spring or fall, the Mandaco Twister vertical tillage unit is the new leader. See your Mandaco dealer. Visit northcountrymarketing.biz or call 877-915-8790.
Well, Darren, it's that time of year again. We got to talk about taxes, which I hate talking about.
Yes.
And one of the ways that farmers have to not avoid taxes, but to basically defer taxes is by prepaying certain farm expenses.
Well, taxes are no surprise. Yeah, I mean, you know they're coming, just like weeds. You know we're going to have weeds in the field next year.
And you know you're not going to like them.
And it's going to cost you money. So you just got to plan for it in advance. And you know, when you know that taxes are coming, this is good. They're coming every year. You know what's going to happen. And you can change what you're doing with your system to try and maximize your dollar. And so when you look at farming, we're very fortunate to have a cash accounting system where if we prepay expenses, whenever we write that check, that's when the expense happened. So if that's December of 2012, great. If you want that in January of 2013, hey, that's fine too. Well, maybe you had a good income year in 2012 and you need some more expense. You can do it now.
Okay,
or you
yeah,
can income average.
All right, but everybody knows all that stuff. Let's just talk about dollars and cents here real quick, and then I want to get into the risks a little bit. So if you look at this thing and just say, all right, let's just take, for example, we're going to prepay $100,000 every year for the next 10 years. And let's say you're in the 25% tax bracket, but don't forget you got to pay self-employment tax too as a farmer. So now you're up to about 40% tax. So if it's $100,000 and instead of prepaying it and lowering your tax bill this year, you're going to pay tax. Okay, so that'd be $40,000 that you're going to pay. All right, so then you have to figure what's your opportunity cost for money. If it's 10%, that's $4,000. So if you do that every year for the next 10 years, boy, that kind of adds up, doesn't it? $4,000 per year for 10 years, that's $40,000. So by prepaying $100,000 each year for the next 10 years, in effect, if I can get 10%, basically opportunity cost for my money, I can do that over the next 10 years. I've got $40,000 extra dollars at the end of 10 years. So why would you not do that?
Well, there is one risk by prepaying.
Well, there's more than one.
Well, certainly there is. But one big one that a lot of farmers will say is, hey, if I get into this prepaying, I've got to do it every year now because
well, you do,
I'm used to
let's just take this year for example. Okay, it's a drought year, and a lot of guys say, oh man, this is really going to hurt me this year. You know, if you had all that built up, well, now this year you could actually show some income. So you want to keep prepaying so you're ahead on this thing. So if you do have a bad year, then you don't have to prepay that one year, and then you can kind of catch back up.
All right, well, there's more than just that. What about collateral? If I'm prepaying, I'm giving somebody else money, I don't have any collateral.
Yep, that's exactly right. You're not going to have any collateral, so that's why you absolutely have to know who you're prepaying with, and you've really got to trust that person. The other thing you can always do too is say, look, I don't want to just prepay. I want to take the product home with me. Just make sure you let your supplier know in advance, because at this time of the year, it's going to be a little cold outside, and there are a lot of these things you might prepay for that could freeze. So you got to be careful with some of those risks too.
Well, the other thing is, what if I need to switch products? Maybe I decide, you know what, I thought I was going to do a bunch of corn, but then by springtime you say, no, I'm going to do more beans.
Okay, well, with the switching thing, make sure you talk to your retailer first, because if you prepay with them and it's just no questions asked, you just give them a check, whatever, have you talked through that? So what does happen if you need to switch? That's something you've got to work out with your retailer. Most of them are real good, but every once in a while you run into somebody who says, nope, you have to take this product. That's it, tough luck.
Well, there's certainly other benefits of prepaying. When you look at the discounts that you can get, many times there are better discounts that happen, you know, in October, November, and December than what you can get in January.
Yeah, but it's not just about the discounts. And yeah, those are pretty good. They're going to pay a good APR. It's also the fact of supply. And in years like this, when we have good crop prices and we're tight on seed supply, we're tight on many of the ag chemical supply products, you want to make sure you've got your product locked up, because the last thing you want is for it to get to be spring and you don't have choice number 1, you're down to choice number 8, and all of a sudden your yield is not there, your weed control is not there. You just can't have that.
So really, to wrap things up, Brian, you're saying know who your dealer is, know that you can trust them, and know what all the policies are, because it's a long time before spring and a lot of things can happen.
Yeah, but we do encourage you to take a hard look at prepaying, because it can save you on taxes over the long run. It can save you in terms of discounts, and also it will help secure your supply.
Well, will it help you kill our Weed of the Week, though, Brian? That's the real question. Our Weed of the Week is coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is brought to you by Mandaco.
For lower costs and higher production, Mandaco leads with versatility unmatched. Twister is the vertical tillage unit for no-till as well as conventional tillage. See your Mandaco dealer. Visit northcountrymarketing.biz or call 877-915-8790.
Our weed of the week is Henbit.
Well, Henbit's a tough winter annual weed. There aren't a lot of products that are great on it. We have more trouble with it in wheat than other crops. So first of all, you've got to identify Henbit. One thing about Henbit, it's a member of the mint family, and so there is an odor to it. It's one of those weeds, when you walk out in a field, you can just smell it coming. You know you've got some Henbit.
Yeah, but I don't want to identify this thing. I want to control it before it even comes up. Can I use it pre?
Well, you certainly can. You could use something like Sharpen. Henbit is not the strength of Sharpen, but it's a lot better than doing nothing. Then you can come back in crop with Husky, and Husky really does a nice job. Affinity or Addition do a nice job too. I like the broad spec version of either of Affinity or Addition. And then you look at other crops too, Brian. If you're rotating crops, there's some good choices in other things. Like in corn, for example, Balanced Flex does a decent job. Harness and Surpass are good. Of course, Sure Start and Triple Flex are good. In crop, Status does an excellent job. In soybeans, it's a little tougher to control. I like Authority MTZ and a burn down with Roundup. Post-Emerge, Pursuit or Raptor are okay. So for you guys in wheat, you say, well, what about Clearfield wheat and just spray Beyond in it? You know, it's okay, it's not great. So I really do prefer Husky in the wheat. And in soybeans, if you're going to use Pursuit or Raptor, you're going to have to add Flex Star or Cobra for extra kick.
Yeah, the big thing with this Henbit is it does come up really early in the season. Like Darren said, it can be a winter annual, and so that's where you've got to stop it right away. By the time it gets some size to it, it's a little more difficult to control, especially with some of these products that are a little bit questionable to begin with.
Well, Henbit is certainly a difficult to control weed, so get after it with a good pre-emerge herbicide and follow with an effective post-treatment to wipe out any escapes. That's all the time we have for this week's weed, but Iron Talk is coming up next.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
Advanced Farming Systems from Case IH helps producers be ready. AFS is less complex and built right into our equipment. And our team of dedicated specialists are here to keep you rolling. The world of farming is changing. Will you be ready?
Rootworm resistance is a real issue. We'll talk about it in today's Iron Talk. Most of the new planters that have been sold over the last really 10 years haven't had dry insecticide boxes on them. I don't understand it. I don't know why we've forgotten about controlling rootworms and other pests at planting time, but we have. So, if you don't have dry boxes, how can you get insecticide out there to fight rootworms that are now resistant to single trait rootworm hybrids? Well, the way you'll do it is by putting on liquid insecticide. Now, normally we don't get into talking about one company or another on Ag PhD, but frankly, there's really only one alternative when it comes to liquids, and that's FMC's product, Capture LFR. The LFR stands for Liquid Fertilizer Ready, and it certainly mixes much easier with liquid fertilizers than the old version of Capture did. Now, to be able to apply Capture LFR, you need a nice system. And what we're doing on our farm, we're putting a new Capture LFR system on because FMC has a great program this year. Basically, FMC has a program now. If you need to put a liquid insecticide application system on your planter, you can get almost the whole thing paid for just by buying some Capture and getting a rebate on each gallon. So check out all the details if you need a new way to put on liquid insecticide on your planter. You can also do liquid fertilizer at the same time. So it's kind of a kill two birds with one stone type of thing. But check it out on your planter this year because you will need some insecticide to help fight rootworms that are resistant to Bt traits. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show.
Advanced Farming Systems from Case IH helps producers be ready. Our precision farming solution is less complex and built right into our equipment. Factory integrated with open architecture, AFS works with all of your implements, no matter what color they are. And our team of dedicated specialists are here to keep you rolling 24/7, 365. The world of farming is changing. Will you be ready?
I'm ready.
Everything is better to the power of Nutrisphere N. Proven to shield against leaching, volatilization, and denitrification, Nutrisphere N Nitrogen Fertilizer Manager helps you maximize the efficiency of your nitrogen applications. In fact, research shows that in 184 corn trials, Nutrisphere N increases yields by an average of 13.2 bushels per acre. Do the math for yourself. Contact your local fertilizer dealer today and take your operation to the power of Nutrisphere N.
Back in 1966, Advanced Drainage Systems, Inc. was the first company to start manufacturing plastic agricultural drainage pipe in the United States. And today, ADS continues our leadership with superior pipe production and service capabilities. Our roots are firmly entrenched in the agriculture industry, and we're committed to helping farmers grow their business. With 54 manufacturing plants and 24 distribution yards throughout the world, you can count on ADS and our green striped pipe to be there when you need us. Advanced Drainage Systems, the green striped pipe you can count on.
Micronutrients are not optional for plants, they are essential. TJ Micromix is a profit-proven management tool that ensures the availability of essential secondary and micronutrients. Formulated as a dry granule or liquid, TJ Micromix is plant available, easy to mix and apply. The synergistic fertilizer mix delivers consistent yield response on a variety of crops by complementing an NPK fertilizer program. Maximize yield on your farm this season. Call TJ Technologies or your fertilizer dealer and get your TJ Micromix today.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
Introducing the all-new Backsaver Swing Hopper Auger Mover. Backsavers have interchangeable parts which allows you easy access to move or swing your augers to fit your harvesting needs. Get yours today at Norwood Sales.
That's all the time we have for this week's show, but we'll be back again next time with another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
Fertilizer is a term commonly used to describe plant food. Did you realize all growing plants require primary, secondary, and micronutrients in order to grow properly and produce food for humans? For more information, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.